Hey, of course, it's your girl Besa, and you guys, I have not done a things you should be talking about video in a minute. So, with that being said, we just found out that Jay-Z is the first official hip-hop artist to actually be a billionaire. Now, I know some of you guys were saying that it was Dr. Dre. However, we know that Forbes is law when it comes to that, and Forbes is saying that it was Jay-Z. So that's what we're going to run with right about now. Anyways, I got a chance to sit down with Abiola, the creator of Trap Vinyasa and the Body Party series, to talk about, where she's from, what made her start doing this, how she became a yoga instructor, if she wanted to always be a yoga instructor, and what this is doing for the Black community here in Seattle, Washington, especially in terms of, getting into your own lady bits and loving your lady bits and just being a confident ass, badass bitch. So anyways, get into this week's episode of Things You Should Be Talking About, and back to basics.
Hey everyone, my name is Abiola and I'm the founder of Trap Vinyasa. Trap Vinyasa is a radically body positive hip hop yoga experience based here in Seattle. We have a number of offerings. We have community classes, we have retreats, we have teacher trainings, and of course we have our event series called Body Party, which gives women or those who identify as female bodies an opportunity to come together to move and sweat together, in addition to exploring topics around feminine wellness and health, topics like libido and self-sexuality, vaginal health, menstruation, all those questions that we kind of awkwardly are Googling. It gives you an opportunity to come together to ask those questions and discuss and unpack them with an expert panel. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm first generation Nigerian American, so even though I was born in Atlanta, I grew up in a traditional Nigerian household. Growing up out in the South, obviously trap, rap music, hip hop music originated from there, and my cousins were actually artists with Grand Hustle, Tip's label or T.I.'s label when he was coming up. They were called Ecstasy, and so I learned a lot about hip hop music from them and also about hip hop dance. At the same time, I was always doing traditional West African dance, kind of watching and learning from my parents, going to Nigerian parties and listening to Nigerian music. So it's just kind of in my blood to combine Afro and traditional hip hop dance together. How did I end up in Seattle? That's a really good question. My mom is super spiritual, and she knew absolutely nobody out here. Like, she knew nobody in Seattle and Washington State. What was happening is my sisters and my cousins were getting into a lot of trouble, and she was noticing that, and she really wanted my sisters and I to have a better experience.
Yeah.
So at the time, she was looking for somewhere to go where she could relocate us all. And she ended up moving out to Washington State. She had heard just from like a random friend about Washington State. So she actually moved here and lived here by herself for a little over about a year or so.
Nice.
And kind of like studied the lay of the land. And when she felt that it was right, she just told my dad to bring the kids.
Come on down.
How we randomly ended up from Atlanta all the way to the other side of basically the world, the United States, in Seattle, Washington. So that's how I ended up here. I never planned to be a yoga instructor. That was never planned, for real. I actually wanted to work in fashion. Like, my goal and my drive and dream or passion was to work in fashion, specifically fashion journalism. And even when I was doing my first 200-hour teacher training, I was doing marketing copywriting around fashion and things like that.
Nice.
So, I never wanted to be a yoga instructor. What got me into practicing yoga was my own mental health issues and things like that, and insecurities around, some sexual trauma and some substance abuse is what really actually led me into my yoga practice. And I practiced for 7 years before I ever even thought about becoming an instructor. That was never a goal for me. My practice was always really personal, and it was a really specific place that I could come to heal a lot of those specific challenges that I was sharing before.
So you would say yoga became a part of your rebirth journey, maybe?
Very much so. Like, yoga became a huge part of my life. Not only the physical asana, like the movements itself, but also just it helped reframe my mentality and how I was relating to myself in the outer world. You know, it helped me to kind of alchemize a lot of the trauma that I had been compounding over time, to transmute that energy into something a little bit more positive, more uplifting. So I didn't just, you know, the negative stuff didn't just disappear, but I actually processed through it. And it gave me the space to do that, the space to really drop into the issues concerning like my mental wellness and not be judged or criticized for it. It gave me the space to receive that. And then also, like, the more I started to practice, the more I was learning about the philosophy, the more I was beginning to receive myself as a being of self-love, as opposed to taking on a number of self-love practices, like actually receiving that the atoms and the matter that makes me up are actually molecules and follicles of love, because Spirit created me in its image. I started being able to have more sympathy, more empathy, more compassion towards other people. Like, I was always real hard, like just had a really hard personality, like kind of rough, and really resistant towards folks, especially men, because of the sexual trauma. Resistant because, you know, coming here, I was really insecure. I was around always all African Americans, and coming here being like a dark-skinned woman, a dark-skinned girl at the time, and the trauma of like trying to figure that out and love myself within that. So I was really hard, and it just gave me the space to begin to like receive myself, you know.
So you became not closed in anymore, like you were finally able to open and almost feel again, if you will.
Maybe that's one of the things with trap. I was able to open up, but really begin to identify as this sensual vessel versus like this sexualized body. And not be so resistant. So I relate that like hardness to being resistant, and I was able to be more receptive, to really tap into like my divine feminine energy, to be more sensual, more soft. And that's a daily process, but the practice gives me the ability to do that. But I've seen how I've kind of bloomed open, and not being so hard anymore. Trap Vinyasa is different in that the philosophy behind it is really specific. It's this radically body positive hip hop yoga experience. Instead of just combining asana movements just with a soundtrack of hip hop music behind it, we utilize the 4 elements of hip hop to teach students how to rewrite the stories that they've been told about their body. Twerk it forward, high plank. Twerk it forward, high plank. Twerk it back, down dog, no music. Twerk it back, no music. Hold, draw the big toes to kiss. Inhale, left heel comes high. Understanding that, you know, hip-hop artists are modern-day alchemists, you know, taking these really deep struggles and literally alchemizing or transmuting them into something that we all constantly celebrate, that has created a culture, that's created a movement. The story of coming from nothing to something, you know, and we can do that within our own bodies as well. So we really focus on teaching those 4 elements, giving back to the culture in that way and honoring the culture, and also the movements that we do. So Trap Vinyasa is different in that we combine yoga asana, fluid sensual dance and Afro dance with high intensity interval training and basic body weight exercises. So we have 4 set series or 4 set classes that really focus on specific parts of the body. We have intro, we have core, we have kickboxing, and we have HIIT. And each one of those are, you know, focusing on working different parts of the body, strengthening different parts of the body, in addition to finding that sensuality through the dance. So you get a really choreographed experience, a really choreographed specific experience for each class that you're just not going to find in another trap yoga kind of generic class. Yeah, definitely. I mean, honey, you gonna sweat. It's gonna tone you. It tones, it strengthens. You know, you guys will get to experience that today. Trap Vinyasa is a full body workout. It's not really a traditional yoga class. It's more yoga fitness. So, you know, you get the full benefits, like head to toe full body workout, working through your core, your belly, your solar plexus, strengthening your quads and your thighs, and also stretching and lengthening those muscles as well, strengthening the shoulders. You know, we're doing boxing, so you're strengthening the biceps and the triceps. It's a full body cardio workout. Definitely. So what Trap Vinyasa does for the POC community out here in Seattle is it holds space for folks to come in and work out together and sweat together, and also to find a space where they can heal together, specifically women or female identified bodies. One of the main reasons why I started Trap was, like I said, I really wanted to create community, but to be a little bit more specific I had come from really attracting friends and women who were at a certain period in my life when I was out there doing the most, basically. And when I started to do this healing process in my practice, I started to have these deeper conversations with myself. And I realized I wasn't able to exchange those conversations with those friends anymore. And I went through a period where I was like a really big loner, like I didn't have really anything or anyone. I was in this transition period. And I was looking for more brown people who were into having these conversations, and I was really surprised to not find any of that in the yoga studio. So with Trap Vinyasa, I started to actually rent out kind of spaces out here in the South and where I live, you know, community centers or just open spaces to start to hold those spaces. So I wanted to create a space for brown folks who identify with or who are interested in learning about self-empowerment or quote-unquote enlightenment to come together and heal and have those conversations that, you know, we don't necessarily feel comfortable going and having at a yoga studio. So I wanted to create a space for us to talk about mental health and wellness, to talk about yoga asana and practice and sweat together, to talk about personal development, to talk about the books that we're wanting to read, just to talk about elevation within our community and within our personal lives as well. So Trap Vinyasa creates that for POC, but also trans folks as well. Just all of those people who identify as other, who are really into growing and they're in this transition period. They want to, you know, do better and experience more for themselves and elevate and go on this process of enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, to create a space for them to do that. Outside of a yoga studio, a generic yoga studio, but do it how we feel comfortable doing it with our music and with our culture. So Body Party, like I was saying, Body Party is Trap Vinyasa's event series. It's really unique in that it provides space for folks together, specifically women or female identified bodies, to come together to move and explore feminine wellness. It's specifically topics around libido, self-sexuality, reproduction, menstruation, vaginal health, sex education, and all these questions that we're constantly Googling or awkwardly asking our OBs, but never, you know, discussing in person. You know, usually you'd have those conversations back with the elders way back in the day. You'd ask about questions around reproduction or, you know, child rearing or sex, you know, sex ed and things like that. And we don't really have those conversations anymore. So I think it's really important as young women who are out there being sexually explorative and learning our bodies and becoming more strengthened and empowered in our bodies to begin to ask those questions that make us feel uncomfortable, so that we can continue to move in a way that's mindful when it comes to, how we're moving and what our wellness looks like, right? So I've been to a number of wellness events, which usually cover nutrition and fitness. But I'm always craving a wellness event that can really talk about those uncomfortable questions that I listed, where I can talk about libido and some things that I can do, or some ways that I can explore that, or self-touch and things like that, and what that's like and how I can do it so it feels comfortable for me. Reproduction, as I'm getting older and wanting to explore children in the future, places where I can have those conversations. So in addition to sweating together, we're having an expert panel at Body Parted to really explore these questions in detail. Attendees are going to get the opportunity to anonymously submit a question, and we can continue to discuss that and unfold it. In addition, Body Party highlights CBD solutions. So I really wanted to make sure that, being out here in Seattle, highlight all the incredible healing natures and possibilities of CBD. We won't have any flower, but we'll have amazing CBD sponsors, CBD facial oils, CBD self-massage, CBD body salves. There's just so many possibilities when it comes to CBD, and I really wanted to create space for us to highlight those brands, wellness brands, who are creating sustainable CBD options for us. In addition to, a plethora of other national wellness vendors like Girlfriend Collective and Lola, and all those things that are holding it down for women in this day and age. So we hope to see you there. It's going to be Saturday, June 15th at Think Space in Seattle, right on Lake Union. It's going to be gorgeous. Pray, Lord, that the sun is shining bright. And you can always register to grab your ticket at www.trapvinyasa.com, or you can head to our Instagram at Trap Vinyasa and register through the link in our bio. So if you guys want to come to our Trap Thursday or our Trap community class, we have it every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. at Yoga on Beacon in Beacon Hill. If you want to come through, just pull up anytime. Bring your homegirls as well. And you can register at trapvinyasa.com or our Instagram via the link in our bio.